I've heard that life is what you make it. I say, make room to grow. I'm your host, LaWanda Dockery, and this is the Make Room to Grow podcast. It all started with a dream about growing food, and who would ever imagine that growing food would lead to me learning about personal growth and development? Well, it did, and I want to bring you along for this beautiful ride. Thank you so much for joining me. Hello, Grow Nation. I hope that you all are well. It feels good to be looking forward to another beautiful weekend. I know I say this often. I greet you all the same way every time, but let me just tell y'all that this time I have such gratitude for life, for the breath in my lungs, just for living. One of my favorite scriptures is, I had fainted, unless I believed to see the goodness of the Lord in the land of the living. And I can truly say that I am grateful to be here. You know, the old folks used to say, somebody prayed for me. Well, I know someone prayed for my family and for me that we just recovered from COVID. And I don't say that to evoke any form of sympathy. I say that to attest to the goodness of God, because it's not a game, but God is greater. He is the author and the finisher of our faith. My favorite other scripture is that we overcome by the blood of the Lamb and by the words of our testimony. So there's no need in me keeping quiet when God has brought me through something, when God has kept my family, when God has covered my household, and I am so very thankful for that. So I had to share. I will not be quiet about the goodness of Jesus. My prayer is that you won't either. All right, on to the garden. So, guys, these last couple of days have really heated up, at least in the Northeast. I'm in zone 7A. And I've been seeing some action out there, guys. The lettuce that I planted a few weeks ago is flourishing. I've got a couple new transplants. I did some red Russian kale. I did a head of romaine lettuce. I have a container of little gem lettuce. And I've done a few other transplants. But what I wanted to talk to you today, so one, I want to encourage you because it's heating up. The weather's changing, the weather's breaking, and we can expect our plants to grow more. I feel like we've been stalled a little bit. I feel like it's been taking a while, but I feel like the ground is finally going to warm up and our plants are going to take off, guys. So it ain't hard to tell. I could not wait until I felt better. In fact, last Friday was the first day that we were considered to not be contagious anymore. So the following day, I waited another day. I got up and I was out the house by 6:30. I was at the big box store where you can get all your garden center goods at 6:45. And there were people in the store. Anyway, I got my little, more soil and a couple other odds and ends that I needed to get. I could not wait to get back into the garden. I could not wait to get back with my hands in the dirt. I could not wait to just get going and keeping busy. And it was calling me, y'all. It was really, really calling me. But so what I did was I took the day and I transplanted those red Russian kale, the romaine lettuce. I also had a bush bean that I've been growing in a solo cup in the house for the most part. I let it harden off for a few days. And if you remember, we talked about hardening off. You want your plants that are indoors to get used to the outside. You want them to get used to the direct sun rays and not go into shock because of it, not be compromised because you brought them from indoors to outdoors without properly hardening them off. So you should give them more and more sunlight each day over the course of at least 1 week. Sometimes people do 2 weeks. Anyway, I took this particular plant, hardened it off, and I wanted to transfer it into a grow bag. Except when I took this particular trip to the big box store, I was ambitious. I bought some blood meal. I bought some black cow manure. And I bought some fish emulsion, which I heard was really phenomenal in terms of growing your plants in a nice organic way. All of these products were, at least they're labeled as organic. And so I decided I'm going to put this bush bean into the grow bag by itself. Now, this is one of the plants that started to bloom in the house. So here I go now. I'm all ambitious. I'm putting it in the black cow manure. I got the blood meal. I'm mixing it up. And I just know I'm about to make this plant flourish. Dig the hole, put the bush bean in there, cover it up, water it in and everything. And then a couple days later, I noticed that one of the leaves start to look like a little bronze color. So at first I said, well, maybe these beans are like, maybe the leaves have a couple different colors on them. Maybe it's like a blush color. I'm trying to get cute about it, like just not paying attention. Couple more days go by and my husband and I are inspecting and we're like, there's something wrong with this plant. What could it be? So now we're talking. And I'm like, the only thing I did was I moved it from the soil that it was inside the house. I kept it immediately in that soil, but I took that plant and put it in the grow bag. So we're trying to figure it out. And I'm like, this must be transplant shock. So there's a period of time where you take your plants that were in one container. Maybe you want to pot them up, meaning put them in a bigger container, because they've outgrown where they were. So in my case, I had it in a solo cup. The bush bean outgrew the solo cup, so now I want to put it in a bigger container, which is the grow bag. Fine. But there are times where you move a plant from one environment to another, and it goes through shock because it's in a new environment. And I think I threw too much at this plant at once. So then it got me to thinking, I'm doing too much. And it ain't hard to tell. You could look at the leaves and see, no, this is not like a cute little blush color. These things are burnt. These things are turning brown. There's something wrong here. There's something off. It was too much at once for the plants. And so we got to thinking, my husband and I were talking about transplant shock. It ain't hard to tell. The leaves are going to show you what's wrong with the plant. You can't cover it up. But how much does that apply to us? How much does that apply to our everyday lives? Oftentimes, and you can almost kind of look at this in the reverse. Oftentimes, we are native to an environment. We have a certain surroundings when we're growing up. We're comfortable. We're used to that. We know what that looks like because we're able to navigate around it. We've been in that environment all our lives. But then what happens when you start to outgrow an environment? Now, your roots are starting to come out of the bottom of the container. You're starting to get a little stagnant, maybe even frustrated. You started like outgrowing where you are and what you're used to. And now the day comes where you need to make a shift. You need to get into a new environment. You need to get into a new soil, if you will. But what happens? What happens when you do that? We have to be so strategic on how we do that, right? If these plants are going through transplant shock, imagine when we try to switch it up. Imagine when we try to get into a new environment. Imagine when we try to do too much in too little time. Oh my goodness, you kind of go through some things. It's for your growth. If done correctly, it's for your growth. But we got to give ourselves time. We got to give ourselves time to acclimate to new things. It's good to thrust ourselves, feet first into things. But I'm just looking at this plant like, oh my gosh, I did too much. Make your little small incremental changes. Make your adjustments. I should have put the plant in the grow bag without all the extra stuff, right? And then I could have added it little by little just to ensure that the plant has the best chance for success. But what did I have to do now? We had to prune back some of those leaves because we just did it too fast. So everything is about a process. Everything is about order. Yes, we need that new environment. Yes, we need that bigger container, but don't do too much too quickly. I just thought that would encourage you. I thought it was a dope analogy. Like we look to the garden for life lessons because God buried life lessons in the garden. Isn't that beautiful? Isn't that beautiful to be a part of that? So I just say it ain't hard to tell. Look at your leaves. Look at your fruit. Look at what you're putting off. If something looks a little burnt, if something looks like it's not flourishing, all right, well, you maybe have to go through a season of pruning and so you can grow healthier. There's nothing wrong with the new. There's nothing wrong with exposure to something new or wanting to grow, but do it in a way that's going to cause you to thrive and not cause you to have setbacks. Well, guys, I want you to be intentional about those areas in your life where you are going to make room to grow.